Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this very important symposium, jointly work with Taiwan and Germany. And especially as we are hosting G20 this June in Japan, in Osaka, I have been already learning a lot of issues that maybe perhaps that I can relate to my government in preparing some of the discussions and agenda for G20 immediately after I return from Taiwan. And I would like to also thank the Professor Waldenberger for giving us a very nice introduction and very insightful analysis on what we have been doing under the project called Society 5.0. In fact, I had been serving as a special advisor in the Cabinet Office responsible for science and technology innovation and working with the minister as we have launched Society 5.0 in 2016. That one of the first launching event was the hosting of the G7 summit at the ministerial meeting with science and technology ministers in Tsukuba at that time. And I remember sort of chairing with the minister in the session to launch the Society 5.0 for the first time to the more in a public. And as he has pointed out, that we are very aware of the Germans' initiative on Industry 4.0, and it was nice to have something 5.0 when we are going to launch something at G7 with the presence of the German minister. So all this background, we of course came with this very challenging and ambitious plan. But I guess, according to today's sort of main topic of putting human-centered concept in the science and technology or economic development, I think that's what Society 5.0 is all about. And as Professor Waldenberger has sort of laid out, that you kind of started with our sense of urgency of looking at our society as rapidly aging and population declining and the widening of the gap between the rural and urban areas. We have seen some of the rural villages that are just simply being abandoned. There's just no, as we can see, some of the elderly population there. People are sort of moving out of the traditional houses and villages just because that it's so hard for them to sustain their livelihood in that situation there. So if there is something that our science and technology and innovation be the sort of provides a solution to these urgent social problems, that's what we are trying to do under the program, under the ambitious goal of Society 5.0. So we have a lot of, I want to leave some more time for the panel discussion later so that we can have much more fruitful debate on the challenges that we are facing. But I'd like to take this opportunity to just sort of give a more sort of concrete examples or some of the programs that we are implementing since we already sort of heard a lot about the sort of conceptual sort of side of the Society 5.0. So let me just quickly zoom into maybe a fifth science and technology basic plan, which is ongoing from 2016 to 2020. And we're now in the process of evaluating this 5-year plan. I'm the chair of the evaluation committee, in fact, in the Cabinet Office, kind of responsible for some of the looking at how much progress that we have made since the launch of Society 5.0. But also, and there is a very sense of, again, urgency of accelerating some of the things that we have been doing, because there, as he has mentioned, as Professor mentioned, that there are so many challenges that still there that needs to be overcome, and so there are all these programs. Especially, we're now accelerating more of this regulatory reform scheme that associated with the data-driven innovation, and also the how much can we experiment with the new emerging technologies that are need to be applied in a society in order to be part of this society 5.0. And lastly, I just wanted to sort of highlight some of the more recent concept called inclusive innovation. I mean, is it not the recent concept itself, but I mean, we are now talking in the sort of in the context of Society 5.0, where we should be aware of this sort of the inclusiveness, and as we are also pushing for SDGs with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and there are some issues that the Society 5.0 addresses are in line with our effort in achieving these SDGs goals for us. So that this inclusiveness and also the Society 5.0 is not probably going to be one of the main topic in coming years for Japanese government. So I'm not going to spend much time on here, but as we have already heard, that we are facing a declining birth rate, rapid aging population, and I was very shocked that once again to see the comparison with Germany and the statistics, and we are very in a bad situation, even within. So I think some of the challenges, I think now, in fact. As I mentioned, large companies and SMEs, or general income disparities, generational gaps, and so on and so forth. All these things we see it as an increasing problem, and so it is the Society 5.0 was to create it so that to answer these challenges through our hope. Embracing that sort of thing of the technology as we put forth on this. So, but then, of course, another challenge is that we are a heavily national debt country, right? So the government R&D and the budget itself is under a tremendous constraint. And how do you come up with where the investments and the programs that needed to be put forward is another issue. So we have all these ideas, programs, and so on and so forth, but in terms of the investment coming out of the government budget, we still have a lot of challenge that we have to face. And of course, where the problem when it comes to national debt is really the social security expenditure increase. So it's kind of double-edged. So I mean, this is kind of what we have to solve the problem of increasing social security expenditure with new technology, but the technology needs money to be invested, and the money has to come from the budget, but then budget is under the constraint because of that sort of. So this spiral of things, it's a very difficult to break, but Abenomics is, I don't know how much well, at least that they're under the policies of Abenomics, we are trying to put a more aggressive national budget expenditure increase just to break this spiral. So the target is now the private-public, both the private and public investment should be at least 4% of GDP, and the government R&D should be at least 1% of the GDP itself. So that's a big sort of a target, but we are trying hard at the moment to come up with the extra budget. But again, you know, of course, the investment itself is very important, but the societal sort of regulations and and all the institutional factors that will be one of the sort of problems for all this new technology to be applied and so on and so on. So this is something that I wanted to mention today. I just not going to spend too much on the Abenomics, but another sort of when we sort of started with Society 5.0, we knew that the challenges that Professor Waldenberger was expressing about the internationalizations and silos, and we need to have more entrepreneurship, and most of it is really about changing the way we used to run the business in Japanese society. But it's hard to change, of course, because we were one time very successful with lifetime employment, with large corporations going global and so on and so forth. To change to something new, and we thought that the TPP as a gaiatsu, which is outside pressure, will be one of the launching very important leverage for us to push forward, accelerate the reform. So that's one of the reasons why that our government is really considering the TPP, not because of it's a trade issue, but it's really about internal restructuring of our institutional system. So after TPP, what's going to happen, right? So we need more of that. But I think that today's global sort of a trend is perhaps going opposite to what we expect to push Japan into more in the face of globalization. So this is something that maybe perhaps we can add to another challenge that we are facing with this. I'm just gonna skip all these things, but yes, so you will get these slides anyway, so you can get some of the numbers and so on and so forth. But as I sort of mentioned this public and private partnership and increasing investment for Society 5.0. Because of the really constraint, strong financial constraint on the government side, we are asking the private sector to go along with it. One of the things that our business community, like Keidan Ren, is embracing the Society 5.0 is a way of showing that, that both public and private are looking at the same direction in Japan and trying to encourage this partnership. And I hope that this would enhance some of the problems we're facing in terms of increasing investment to really make the Society 5.0 come forth. Okay. Inclusiveness, we are still under pushing this, promoting dynamic engagement of all citizens, equal pay for equal work, women participation in the society. We are not very proud of, although we are hosting G20, and I think in March we'll have a woman W20 being hosted here again in Tokyo. And one of the big challenge is to really, as Japan, being how much this to address the issue of increasing women participation in society, and equal pay, equal work is something that I think they are putting in the agenda for G20 to be discussed. Empowerment of women, but also how include the people in a rural area by introducing the new maglev train line. That would hope that we can sort of quickly unite the rural areas in Japan and the urban area with increased mobility. And again, the big challenge is not only mobility among the organizations, but mobility, physical mobility between the rural areas and in Tokyo or Osaka and that sort of thing. So we are hoping to create new momentum by introducing this kind of new infrastructure to really engage all citizens. But now, as you may also heard, that Japan is trying to invite more foreign workers. And this is something that I have worked in the cabinet office as well, in first starting with the high-skilled workforce, and to create some kind of a green card system, or in a way of giving the point system for people that are coming to Japan to work based on the very valuable skills and so on and so forth. At that time, I remember going to Germany, actually, in fact, to learn about how Germans were able to introduce this green card system, and we made a lot of discussions on this. And now, of course, we have extended to the group of foreign workers to more basic skills labor, which created a lot of political debate recently in Japan. But the direction is slowly towards more internationalization of the labor market, and so on and so forth. We are very much aware of this is one of the big challenge that we have to solve. And not using more this sort of special zoning things, which I'll talk about later. Society 5.0, of course, as I mentioned, when we are planning this in the cabinet office, we are very aware of the Industry 4.0. The initial idea was to create something but the Japanese version of the Industry 4.0, but as I mentioned, Germany is already leading it, and so we have to be more and then aware of our social problems that are urgently needed to be addressed. So this is how we came up with. And by launch of the Society 5.0 for G7 Summit, this sort of illustration was created to show that there is 5 stages of the societal transformation. Okay, I think I'm just gonna speak, but so this is the kind of definition that official definition of what the Society 5.0 is. We had a lot of internal debate as to how do we define it. It's very difficult to understand what the Society 5.0 is. I've been asked to give some of the lectures and speeches in the local areas in Japan, and even some of the small, medium-sized enterprise association, Japan Chamber of Commerce, even after a couple of years of launch of Society 5.0. But a lot of comments coming from the audience was, I don't understand it. What is the government is doing with Society 5.0? And but anyway, this is something that we're trying to say is, especially with where the red ink is, that such a society capable of providing the necessary goods and services to the people who need them at the required time and in just the right amount, and also a society that is able to respond precisely to a wide variety of social needs, a society in which all kinds of people can readily obtain high-quality services, overcome differences of age, gender, religion, and language, and to live vigorous and comfortable lives. So this is the official definition. Hence, we are now linking to our effort in the SDGs in the same sort of goal. Now, again, this is the one of the, actually, in fact, recently I've been invited to some of the Asian countries to talk about the Society 5.0 and how we came up with this concept. Recently, I was in Vietnam, and they wanted to know more about how they wanted to think about economic growth strategy in the line of more Society 5.0. And so this is one of the very interesting kind of phenomena that now I think we are learning more from the people in outside. And and what we are trying to achieve. So this is very important. Again, this is a great opportunity for us to learn from the Taiwan experience and also from Germany experience. So this is kind of illustrations, put it more easier to rather than the definition in the language, but see how what New Society 5.0 look like. And these are some of the examples that we came up with in introducing what Society 5.0 can do for you. This is a kind of workforce, also the housewives, and the people that are working at very hard, labor market where you need to have, to lift the heavy. I mean, we have a very important logistics system. It's called Takubin, where we can order some small goods and they deliver directly to your house. And this is a very important hard source of the Japanese economy and society now. But actually, we have a lot of problem because this is a very labor-intensive where people has to carry all these things and very quickly to deliver. So these are one of the areas that we are trying to do, and of course, introduction of new information and data-driven infrastructure. Okay, so physical space and cyberspace and the connected industry, all this is part of the important elements. And I'm gonna skip all this more. You can see, read these things from the government point of view. Now, I just wanted to introduce the new sort of, more concrete innovation program called Disruptive Innovation Programs. One is SIP, which is, and also third, the other is Impact. So this is a kind of programs that was created to accelerate innovation and advance of the technology from the Cabinet Office, and to coordinate different R&D programs across the different ministries, so that cross-ministerial strategic innovation promotion program is called SIP, is because if to actually put all these R&D programs on the different ministries, they're doing whatever they're doing, it's very difficult to create a package of R&D programs and the really which need to be addressed under the Society 5.0. And also for some of the technology areas where we need to have more disruptive advance of technologies, we have created this Impact program, and to look at some of the key emerging technology areas, including satellites, robotics, AI, and so on and so forth, and to accelerate research in these areas as well. Some of the examples of these programs in the energy field, next generation infrastructure, local resources. As you can see on the themes are more traditional science and technology programs, but we categorized under the prioritized special issues, societal issues, so that it will be all linked up under one goal, which is say, what is that we need to do in terms of solving energy problem, what we need to do in terms of creating next generation of infrastructure, what do we need to be doing in terms of local resources? And then each programs will be identified as those that are important to address these societal issues. So this is how it's being organized now in the Japanese, most of the Japanese technology programs. So you have to be, and this is another example of a SIP. And again, you can see that the top leading scientists and engineers in Japan are working on these different difficult programs. And for the first time in our government, that now we say that it's okay to fail. well, we cannot say it's okay to fail, but we should say do anything challenging. Of course, our Ministry of Finance don't like me saying too much about it's okay to fail because it's a very important taxpayers' money. So, but again, this is a big challenge where we're addressing. Okay, so we have more of this coming with the second SIP. And the next, the one on horizon is what we call moonshot program. It's not like of the United States, but this is supposed to sort of be a follow-up of the impact program where we are more in addressing more challenging program in it. So, but now we are still making this. And then we have this AI and data sharing infrastructure and AI coordinating mechanism, and sort of all these programs that are already being implemented by all government agencies will be put together under the STI transformation movement, so that we can identify something like I-construction, which is under the Ministry of Transportation and Land, using IoT for public works. And we'll put that into the Society 5.0. And then we have disaster prevention areas, agriculture, automated tractors, and all these programs under the Ministry of Agriculture. But now we are coordinating with under the Cabinet Office to put this into more in a more coordinated program under the one government effort. So this is some of the examples of different ministries carrying out very similar to this under the Society 5.0. I'll take a few minutes just to mention that another effort of regulatory reform, because you'll probably ask, okay, that's wonderful things, but where it's happening? And it's, as Professor Waldenberger mentioned, that by 2020, when we host the Tokyo Olympics, our Prime Minister wants to showcase the result of some of the Society 5.0 to the foreign guests. But we have to find out how we're going to showcase this. Okay, all these government programs and so on and so forth, but where can we see it, right? So we need to have a place, what we call the technology sandbox, where we can go and actually observe some of the things that are happening. So we have to create this regulatory reform, accelerate this regulatory reform under the Promotion Council. 6 areas of focus. I'm not going to spend too much on this, but you have identified some of the areas in Japan where one of those have a special sort of a deregulation as a sandbox attached to this, and to showcase some of that, or even to experiment a new technology there. Tokyo area is foreign doctors, for instance, is that we are hoping that Professor Waldenberger, for instance, living in Tokyo as a German scholar, be able to go to see German doctor anytime in Tokyo and get a medical. This is something that we are hoping to provide, so that we have more foreign scholars, foreign experts, foreign people who be more comfortable coming to Japan and live in our society. Right. So anyway, this is, as I said, project-based regulatory sandbox is a more technology-focused issue. And lastly, these are some of the examples. I want to end my initial remarks, presentation, by sort of going back to the issue of inclusiveness. And we have sort of the next challenge moving forward of the Society 5.0 is to really put more emphasis of this inclusiveness. I talked about engaging all citizens, including women and elderly, but now with the foreign guests, the foreign workers, and also when we are global in terms of companies going global market, we have to be aware of this SDGs, working with the other countries and other markets, global market, to push this inclusive innovation. Also, concept as the sort of in the process of globalizing our innovation itself, because that's something that we, in order to make the Society 5.0 success, Japanese alone can never achieve. So how can we bring all the people, all the knowledge outside of Japan to push Society 5.0 in practice? So this is, I think it's coming a topic for a challenge for Japan in putting inclusiveness into Society 5.0. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the panel discussion and maybe for your insights and comments. Thank you.
Question about the inclusiveness. If emphasize on the technology development for society 5.0, and AI could be another kind of challenge. For example, for labor force, someone could become unemployment. So how to do so-called inclusiveness? I'm curious about it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for putting that forward. I think this is, again, a challenge, as I say, because there are a lot of issues when it comes to AI and now the advancing Society 5.0 from the technology side, and how can we balance the concept of inclusiveness with this. But I think the professor previously talked about how Japan is sort of, because we kind of introduced the new Society 5.0 in sort of complementing the labor shortage. So there are much politically discussions about whether this is a labor replacement or what the problem with that address exactly what you have mentioned, where is the people? And we sort of put the people in the center of the Society 5.0, and we are taking all this advance of technology in a way so that to answer those challenges and societal problems. And so far, in terms of programs going, that is not being challenged as yet. But I think in coming years, with a serious introduction of AI and a data-driven transformation to this, I think there will be many issues, especially ethical issues, I think, which we will be needing to talk about a lot. That's why I sort of mentioned the inclusiveness will be a new sort of challenge for putting Society 5.0 forward. Thank you very much for raising that point.